Good evening, everybody. At this time, please silence your cell phone and be advised these proceedings are being recorded. Those physically present in the council chamber who desire to address the city council during the meeting, please complete the request to speak form available at the front entrance of the council chamber and present it to the city clerk. Speakers physically present and participating via Zoom will be called upon at the appropriate time of each person to be allowed 3 minutes of speaking. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Tuesday, October 10th at 6 p.m. The invocation will be given by Elder Terry Ingram from the Seventh-day Sabbath Church, and Pledge of Allegiance be led by Councilmember Allen. Please stand and join me.
I just have a little bit to say before I start the prayer. I think we can learn a little something from history here. If we look at the 5 books of the Old Testament of the Bible, you have thousands of years, and in those years you see the Israelites, kingdoms rise and fall, and there was a common denominator, and that common denominator was those that decided to follow the Lord and those that didn't. And we know what happened to the ones that didn't. And my prayer tonight is for this council and its staff, and I just ask you to bow your heads right now. We thank you, Father, for this opportunity to gather together and to see a sign. In God we trust, Father. We know that you're in this house, and we just pray that you would give this city council and its staff the wisdom that would bring it forward to make its light shine brightly on this hill. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen. Please follow along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Elder Terry, and thank you, Jeff Allen. Deborah and City Clerk, we have Sylvia Robles on Zoom, so are we going to be in AB 2449 disclosure? Okay, AB 2449 disclosure. Announce if there's any member on the legislative body participating remotely, just in case of emergency circumstances, if not desired. So Sylvia Robles is on Zoom. City Clerk, can I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez Robles.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
I am here.
Mayor Hussey.
Present.
Councilmember Henderson is absent. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for clarification, Councilmember Robles is actually not participating pursuant to AB 2449. That contemplates an emergency or just cause situation where we are unable to specify her location on the agenda.
Okay.
In this case, we actually have identified her teleconference location on the agenda under the traditional Brown Act requirements. Therefore, the AB 2449 is not triggered and does not count against her in this one case.
All right, but so she will be participating.
Yes, she will be
and
participating.
voting.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, thank you. Recording additions or removal items from the agenda. Do we have any?
No additions or deletions.
Special presentations. Staff to introduce the most recent new employee hires. So who's introducing? All right.
It's been a while since we've done this. There it is. It's been a while since we've done this, and we have a couple of, we have several new employees. Great additions, some planning, some administration. So what I'd like to do is call them up, and one of the things we started doing about a year and a half ago is staff has the logo shirt. Everybody is wearing one. That's the staff colors. So we're advanced. We work someplace. We Okay. Daisy, come on. Daisy's in administration upstairs with us and is a Grand Terrace resident. We're always pleased to have Grand Terrace residents on staff, and we're looking forward to a long time with Daisy. Thank you. Antonio, sorry, wrong one. And then Antonio, come on down here. And Antonio came to us several months ago as a planning clerk. Our planner left after his third day. I think he chased her away. But after the third day, Antonio dug in, has done nothing but exemplary work for the last couple of months. He is our assistant planner. No more clerk work for him because he has certainly risen to it, and we're looking forward to great things. And you're finishing up your master's in planning, so he's going to be a great asset. Thank you, Antonio. And then we have Daryl, who's not with us tonight. He is our weekend code enforcement officer, so that we have code enforcement 7 days a week. And this is his weekend, so I'm sure he's doing what we all do on weekends. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and council like to say anything? Councilman Allen?
Sure. I had a chance to meet each of you, personally, but I just want to welcome you from the dais, and so glad that you're part of our city and I look forward to seeing our city grow and benefit from your expertise. Thank you so much for being here and choosing us to be your partner in employment.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Folks, stick around a while. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of work happening, and as we know, you get engaged and anxiously engaged in a particular project, the time goes fast, and you turn around. I know that sometimes I'll take my granddaughter driving in places, and it's not unusual for me to be able to point at places that I've been involved in. And that's a neat thing. So stick around.
Councilman Robles, would you like to say anything?
I really couldn't hear the presentation, so I caught part of it, but I do welcome all of them, and I hope they do stay. It is going to be an exciting time to be here.
Thank you. Yes, welcome aboard. And if you don't stay for at least 10 years, you have to pay Conrad back for a fee. Is that how we're doing it?
The shirts are on loan.
Oh, yeah, loan. So, yeah, when you retire, you have to turn that in 30, 40, 50 years from now. So I don't. But welcome aboard and welcome to the family. And, best of luck to you. And thank you for everything you're doing. Okay, so consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They are to be acted upon by the City Council at any one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal from the items from the consent calendar. So do we have any removals? None? Any public comment on the consent calendar?
No, Mayor.
All right, no removals, no public comment. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the consent calendar.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Allen, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, because we're doing a teleconference meeting, we have to do a roll call vote.
All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Allen.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez Robles.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
Yes.
And Mayor Hussey.
Yes.
Motion
You
passes-
didn't hook her up with the
passes
button?
unanimously.
What's that?
You didn't hook her up with the button to vote?
Even if we could, we have to comply with the state
Okay.
law.
Well, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Deborah. All right. Public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any items not appearing on the regular agenda because of the restrictions contained in California law, and the City Council may discuss or act on any items not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request brief response from staff. The questions raised during the public comment or may request the matter be agendized for future meetings. So do we have any public comment?
Not at this time, sir.
All right, well, no public comment. We'll go ahead and close that. Public hearing, none. Unfinished business, none. New business. G, number 6, approval of information technology management service agreement presented by the city manager.
We'll do actually very quickly. We're currently using on-site computing as our IT support services. They've been with us for several years, and it was time that we put just as good practice to put the contract back out to bid. We had, I believe, 6 responses to the application. On-site was selected because of their past history with us, their price point, and their ability to deliver. And we're very glad to renew the contract with them and continue working forward with them.
Okay. Does the council have any questions? Do we public comment on it?
No, Mayor.
So, do I have a motion and a second?
Motion for approval?
Second it.
I have a motion by by Mayor Pro Tem, Wilson, and a second by Councilmember Allen. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Allen.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez Robles.
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Hussey.
Yes.
Excuse me. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. And thank you guys and continue your good work. Is that why you're on site right now here to make sure? All right. Okay. I'm sorry, I got all kinds of dad jokes. I've been cooped up for a couple of days with my granddaughter, so. All right, item 7, City Council Policies and Procedures presented by City Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here to discuss our proposed revisions to the City Council policies and procedures. Make sure I'm using this right. Very good. So as an overview of what we'll be discussing tonight, I'll go over the vision statement that is consistent with the action that we're being proposed to take tonight, the specific revisions that we're considering, and some additional minor revisions that I'm recommending, and then some final recommendations. So City Council goal number 5 is to engage in proactive communication by establishing policies and procedures for meetings of the City Council to promote community participation and promoting orderly meetings. And that is exactly what the council procedures are aimed to accomplish. So as background, the council procedures were adopted back in 2006. They were amended 4 times since then. And recently, on September 12th, 2023, the City Council held a special meeting to do a workshop and review the policy again and see if any revisions were necessary. So the council discussed 7 items for possible revision, and I'm going to go through them tonight. Here is a brief identification of the issues that we will be going over, namely the future agenda items, provision in the policy, regulations regarding clapping and booing, the procedure for extending time limitations on public comment, which is currently at 3 minutes, identifying the sergeant of arms, specifically in the policy, identifying the mayor as a point person for citizen engagement, which I'll speak a little bit more to later in the presentation, a provision that no requests for funds shall be placed on the consent calendar, rather they should be placed somewhere else on the agenda where there would be actual discussion prior to taking an action, and lastly, public comment changes, which I'll get into a little bit more specifically. So currently, our future agenda item process requires several steps. If a council member desires to place an item on the future agenda item discussion, they have to reach out to the city manager, city clerk ahead of time, identify what that subject is. We place it on the agenda, and then it is on the agenda for everybody to see. It is presented to the council. The person who is presenting the request can give a little spiel as to why he or she is requesting the item, and then it is voted upon, and the item is only voted upon to bring it back as an actual agenda item. And so at our special meeting of last month, The council said, well, can we simplify the process? Can we just make it a little bit more spontaneous? And that is actually consistent with what other cities do, where they just identify requests for future agenda items on the agenda without any specific discussion point. The key is we just have to limit the discussion to whether to bring the item back. The only difference between our current policy and what is being proposed is that we would not specifically identify the subject matter of the request to be discussed. So the proposed text would read, request for future agenda items at the heading, and then it would say, at this time, the City Council may propose items for discussion and or action at a future duly agendized City Council meeting. A consensus of a majority of the quorum is required to place an item on a future agenda. And what I've seen in my experience with other city councils is that there are items that come up after the agenda has been posted, things that happen over the weekend, and something that comes up like, say, you know what, we should probably look into that. And a council member would want to have a little bit of flexibility in raising an issue, and this process would give the city council more flexibility. Otherwise, if we stay with the current policy, you'd have to notify the city manager, city clerk before the agenda is even posted, which would be a week usually, 5 days before the city council meeting. So this would just give more flexibility to the city council in raising these issues. The next section was clarifying in the policy that clapping and booing and making other disruptive noises is considered disruptive behavior and would be grounds for enforcement if need be. And so we currently have no reference to clapping or booing specifically in the policy. So what I have added is under the definition of disorderly behavior is that we identify clapping, booing, or making any other noises that disrupt the meeting. And the way the policy reads is, for any disorderly behavior, we may take enforcement actions such as asking the person to quiet down, leave the room until they calm down. This clarification would then now cover clapping and booing. The extension of time limitation, there was a discussion we had about making sure that the city council votes whether to extend a person's time to speak. Currently, we have a 3-minute rule, and if somebody wanted to speak an extra minute or two, we wanted to clarify what the policy is. Currently, our policy actually does cover it. It does provide that the chair or a council member may move to extend the time limitation, which shall be extended upon a majority vote of the city council. So what we were trying to address is actually already in the policy, so we don't have to make any changes. The only question, and just more for consideration while I was working on the report, is do we want to put a maximum time limitation on an extension? So do we want to say, okay, we'll extend it, but we're limited to an additional 1 minute, or an additional 2 minutes, or an additional 3 minutes, or just leave it up to the majority vote at that point in time? You know, my thinking is leave it up to majority, and you determine at that point in time, because if you have a whole crowded chamber, it may not make sense to allow up to 3 minutes, just maybe 30 seconds, a minute. You have that flexibility. So in my opinion, I don't think you change anything. And then maybe we do identify a maximum number of extensions. So if you get one extension, you only get one extension. However long the council directs, you limit it to one. So just some food for thought. The next provision was identifying the sergeant of arms. Currently, our policy doesn't really specify who the sergeant of arms is. It just says that we have one. And so what I have proposed is that the assigned deputy of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department who attends a city council meeting is designated the sergeant of arms. So it doesn't identify a specific individual. It's just a little bit more flexible as to who is attending. There was a point that was discussed about identifying that the mayor is a point person for citizen engagement. And I did not make any changes to the policy on this point, and I think it's, if the council wanted to make any changes or do anything in this respect, my recommendation is to have a separate policy discussion and maybe adopt that rule or resolution separately. simply because that is more of a broader policy question, not a procedural issue with regard to how the meeting itself is conducted. I think it's just outside the scope of what this document is intended to cover. The only way, and I was thinking about this on the way down here, was the only way maybe if you wanted to tie something like this in is that the mayor would be the individual presiding over any ceremonial actions at a meeting, such as handing out proclamations or awards or something like that. If we wanted to specify that, I don't personally think it's necessary, but that's only if the council wanted to add something to that effect in. But as of now, there's nothing proposed in the draft before you tonight. The next item was the no request for funds on consent calendar. I think the council just wanted to make sure that if there's a request for funds, that the city council at least have a brief discussion about it. And even though you can do that by pulling the agenda item off the consent calendar, you could still do it and have that discussion. I think the council really wanted just to make it automatic that at least a brief presentation is provided before that action is taken and considered. So I have added a provision simply saying no request for funds from the city may be considered on consent calendar. So it'll be up to the city manager and city clerk to determine where on the agenda it's placed, but it won't be on consent calendar. And then, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Adrian, that's not actually covered in any of our reference material? It's not under a state mandate or something?
No, it is not. It is not. Yep. In fact, I mean, many cities place routine financial, like contracts, things of that sort, on consent calendar. So that's pretty common. That it goes both ways. The last point, the public comments section changes. Currently, if you were to look at the current policy in section, I believe it's 2.1, it's an interesting section. It kind of ties into what I'll be talking about next. But it talks about the order of business. And if you look at it, it's kind of all over the place in terms of where things are placed on the agenda. And I think the direction from the council was we want to make public comment immediately right after the roll call. Like we want to have it right out of the gate so that we encourage people to come to meetings, participate, and join. So I have added or proposed adding a specific statement saying public comment shall be placed on the agenda immediately after conducting roll call, just so that we have direction in the policy. I was going to move things around, but as I'll get into next, I'll come back to that point. So I did, in going through this in more detail, I did identify 3 things that I wanted to clarify, at least for the time being. I would call these more Band-Aids for the interim. So the first one is future agenda item requests from the public. Right now it says any request to have an item placed on a future agenda must be made in writing and submitted to the city clerk's office, and the request will be processed in accordance with council procedures. It's like, well, this is the council procedure, so why do we have to say that again? So I'm recommending just deleting that language, because right after it, it does talk about what happens next. The request is provided to the city manager and to the city council, and then one of you can ask to put it on as a request for a future agenda. So I'm just taking that out for clarification and eliminate redundancy.
Excuse me, Adrian.
Sure.
On that, for the citizens, what's going to be the time frame if they write the city manager and the city clerk on putting an agenda item? Do we have any time frame, or what's going to be the proper procedure?
Let me take a look. I don't remember if there was a specific time frame off the top of my head. I think it's really they can make a request, and it's up to the council to put it on the agenda at any point in time, but let me double check.
Right now, we don't have any time frame on any, even from the council request.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering, because if it's, if on a public comment, they come up here and they say, made a request for agenda items, what we're, let's see, we're looking into it, or?
It would have to be in writing, it wouldn't be as part of public comment.
Well, I know when they submit it to you in writing, how long, how far, and what would be the proper procedure? I mean, the protocol for this.
We would put it on as soon as practical.
Okay.
And if we have a really full agenda on the next one. We may put it off until until we have a lighter agenda, but it's not something that we would shelve for 6 months. It would be as soon as we could practically get it on there.
If the residents request a agenda item, but you're able to take care of it, are we still practicing that instead of it going all the way to the council if it's something that you can take care of?
Then they would have to ask that the item be removed. If they're going to submit it in writing, they'd have to ask that it would be removed in writing.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm looking for that section. I cannot find it off the top of my head, but, here we go.
Excuse me, Councilman Robles had a question.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I was just going to clarify, we went through this before where we had one gentleman that had like maybe 12 requests and then so so that has been there in practice in the 11 years that I've been on the council, but what ended up being was that the council didn't want citizens taking over the agenda. So that provision was that unless a majority of us wanted it on the agenda, it didn't go on the agenda.
And Councilmember Robles, I agree with you. I think the way this is written, and I'll answer both the mayor and Councilmember Robles' comments. So the way it will read is any request to have an item placed on a future agenda by a member of the public must be made in writing and submitted to the city clerk's office. The city clerk will provide copies of the request to the council members prior to the next meeting. However, it is the city manager's or a majority of council's discretion whether to place the item on the next regular agenda. So there's no time frame other than if they get it, we'll put it on the next regular agenda. But it's up to the council. Ultimately, it's up to the council. And I agree with Councilmember Robles that the council effectively serves as the gatekeeper to determine what items go on the agenda. It's up to the council member to raise it and say we just say you get a request over the weekend and it's submitted to the full council. The council at the next meeting can say, I received a request from so-and-so, we all did. Is this something we want to consider? Okay. And
I just want clarification so when people turn it in, hey, I turned it into the city manager and everything else like you guys request, I'm not hearing anything.
Got it.
It's just more of a clarification question.
Yep. Okay. Then next, let me just make sure I got the other. Okay, so that's taken care of. And then the last section is the mayor's authority to sign resolutions of support. Generally, one individual council member cannot approve a resolution or sign a resolution. It has to go before the city council for a vote. So that's where I struggle with that one. But in speaking with the city clerk, we've actually adopted separate resolutions already to govern that process. And I don't think this provision falls within the scope of the procedures for conducting a meeting. So I don't think it's necessary as part of this meeting or of this document. And plus it's already covered by other resolutions. For that reason, I'm recommending taking it out. So those are the revisions that the council had requested. Those are some additional Band-Aid items that I've identified. And now there's actually one more, which is the posting of the agenda. There's a section in here, which again, I'm not sure why they placed it here, but they have a section about posting the agenda. That is already governed by the Brown Act. And that requirement is already outlined in the Brown Act. So it's not necessary to cover in this procedural document. So for that reason, I'm recommending taking that out as well. Now, future recommendations. So for tonight, if the revisions that I've presented are consistent with the direction from the council at our special meeting last month, I would recommend adopting the provisions tonight. But I would also recommend that the council give me direction to basically do a rewrite of this document. I was going through this with the city clerk last week, and there's a lot of provisions in here that are either misplaced, redundant with state law. It's already governed by the Brown Act, that it doesn't need to be in our local procedural for conducting a meeting. For example, if you look at the very first part of this, it talks about the Ralph M. Brown Act governs the meetings. And then it goes into regular meetings, adjourned meetings, special meetings, emergency meetings, closed sessions. That's all governed by the state law. So why it needs to be in here, in my opinion, I think is unnecessary. And also, if we keep it in there, then we should be reviewing the document yearly to make sure it's consistent with the state law and make any changes to it. I think that's overkill. I don't think it's necessary. I think we refer to the Brown Act, but kind of leave it at that. And then I would do some other rewrite and reorganization of the document to make it a little bit more user-friendly and make it flow a little bit better. So that would be my recommendation. So tonight, adopt the revisions that you've recommended and the Band-Aids that I've suggested, and then authorize me to come back with a stronger document. I'll leave it at that. So.
Okay, Councilman Robles has a question.
Sure.
Well, just to clarify that point, it was that this document is a training guide for us, and also the mayor and I wanted to call a special meeting, and we didn't know how we went about it. And we needed one instance where we needed to talk to a third member, and we needed to know that we could talk about setting a date and time and subject without violating the Brown Act, without discussing anything else. So, and I mean, even I didn't know a lot of these things. So yeah, there's the Brown Act. So either it's not in the procedures, but it's part of our training document. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I actually am going to recommend, as part of this, doing a training on the Brown Act and conflicts of interest maybe early next year, January or something, to start the year, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory on the Brown Act especially. But I agree that we have to be familiar with those procedures. And again, if there's any questions that were ever to come up, I think between the city manager, city clerk, and myself, we'd be able to guide the city council appropriately to make sure we're consistent with the Brown Act.
Okay. Does the council have any additional questions? No? City manager?
Just for clarification, on the request for funds portion, this is request for the community benefiting funds or those type of things. We're not talking about like with on-site or something where you have a contract that's an approved contract. Or are we looking at contracts as well?
My understanding was that it was more the third-party community benefit funds,
okay,
as I understood, not contracts, because contracts are generally routine. But if the council thinks differently, then please advise.
We just always pull those from the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I understand community funds, so we're just not rubber stamping. So that way, because we have some people that come in here to want to speak about it, and to give them their time.
Good, that's the way I read it too. Thank you.
And if you want me to clarify that by just saying community benefit funds, I can easily add that in.
Yeah. Any other questions before we go to public comment? All right,
No,
no
Mayor.
question. Do we have any public comment?
No.
No public comment? All right. So we need a roll call vote on this, or do you have anything else to add?
I have nothing else to add unless there's any discussion by the council before taking a vote.
Yeah, so I need a motion and a second first.
I'll make the motion to both recommendations of the city council policies and procedures.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Allen, a second by Mayor Pro Tem. Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez Robles?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Hussey?
Yes,
Mayor, motion passes unanimously.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, well, you're saying that this is going to be starting out, so what do I do with item H? We still going to do it the old way, or?
Because it's agendized the way we have it on the agenda, let's do it the old way until we put it on the next agenda.
Okay. So item H, request for future agenda items by City Council. Under this section, pursuant to the requirements of the Brown Act, no items may be considered other than those listed below. So the mayor may provide some description information on item 1 and ask for a brief council discussion. So 1 is review all ordinance adopted prior to 2013 for possible modification. So the reason why I'm just bringing this up because, some of these ordinances are probably outdated, and then finding out that we have some crazy ordinances about pig pens and when to work on the weekends and all this other stuff. So my thing is, shouldn't this be brought to the council attentions for update once in a while so we can make sure that we're still within, the timeframes of what's going on with today's society? So that's why I'm asking to just look at this. I know it's going to take a while. So, Councilmember Allen?
I'll support this. Can I ask a question about it? Yeah. Why only prior to 2013? Why not? I understand that we have a lot of them.
I just we could change it, but it's just 10 years out. I figured every 10 years something changes. I have no idea. That was just a magic number for me, 10 years out. Because, we've been incorporated since 78, and we had a lot of ordinances passed since then. And I know it's going to take a long time to go.
Because we did this when the planning director Molina was here, and we specifically went over those agricultural things, and we were doing it in that time frame. And I just think that maybe if we got a little sooner, maybe 2015 or 2018, maybe.
Whatever you want to recommend, I'm open. I know, like I said, I know this is going to take a while, and this is going to be a lot of staff hours. I don't expect anything overnight, but just something that I think needs to be done for, because one other thing, I think some of this looking at, we got too big a government coming in here, and something that's happening over and over that doesn't need it anymore, just to be catch up to times here. And some might be an ordinance that was written back in 78 that needs to still be enforced. I have no idea. So so we could look into this. Mayor Pro Tem.
All right.
Can we apply this to the state too?
Oh, I wish. We vote on stuff for the state and one person overturns it. It's just something that, just came to mind and hearing stuff. So I don't know. I mean, just because sometimes, like example, when we deal with the water company, I wish, me and Councilman Rose talking, I wish they would have did it 40 years ago and took care of that issue instead of we had to wait. Instead of everything getting the buck passed, we're here, like was mentioned, to govern the city and to bring in, rules and regulations. One, to make sure city maintains, the quality of life, and two, protect our residents. Just like the dog license. It's not like we want to go out and search for money. The main reason we make sure dog licenses are done so people have their dogs have their rabies shots to, protect people from harm's way. It's a shame that, we had to check that, but we do, so. But I just know, since I've been on here, we had the dogs, how many pets we could have, and the real estate thing. They came to the table and asked for ordinance change, and we did it, so.
Okay, I'll give you a motion for it.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Allen, a second by Mayor Pro Tem. Not any public comment on this?
Yes, Johan Gallo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Johan Gallo, DeSoto Street, Grand Terrace. I actually have two items. One is on the recommendation that the city attorney had made. I would just recommend that they add a timeline for when things are submitted for consideration for the agenda. And the other item is looking at future agenda items. I would like to discuss the Grand Terrace Cars and Coffee Santa Claus Toy Drive Cruise and the request that we have made to the city for funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. Okay, any other public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, so can we have roll call vote?
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez Robles?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Hussey?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, council. So, City Council Communications, Councilmember Jeff Allen.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. I don't have anything to report, but I will next time, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sylvia Robles.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have been attending the transportation board meetings, but pretty much have been routine. But there is some movement on the train to Las Vegas. And I've been contemplating maybe asking the SCAG representative to come and maybe do a presentation on some of the items that have been discussed at SCAG, and update you, council, and the public on some of the major projects. The final thing I want to report on, as part of the SBCTA, I was invited to a Mobility 21 conference in Anaheim that I attended last week. And the main points were, since we've been encouraging people to bike and walk, accidents have increased 46%. And there was a discussion about what is the capacity for all these activities on the same roads. And I liked from a breakout section what the former mayor of Palm Springs, Lisa Middleton, said. He says, we need all those activities, but everybody needs their own space for it. And I thought that was a very good outlook. There was a bit of a conflict because the Assembly leader for Transportation Committee, Assembly Member Friedman from Glendale, addressed the board and called San Bernardino derogatory terms as far as enjoyment here. There was a letter that was to be signed by all the board members, but that fell through, so it was just signed by the president, but perhaps our mayor could sign it to express our dismay to her comments. And lastly, there's a feeling from the SBCTA board that in the past that this same assembly person has maligned the living conditions in the county of San Bernardino, and she has an instrumental role in the types of funding we get. So I thought it would be important to share that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Grand Terrace Lions Club event commemorating its 50th year in service, and we introduced a plaque to the Lions Club and some pins, and it was a very nice event. It also reminded me of the time that I spent in the Lions Club and some of the personalities that were there, and a lot of the leaders for this community have also been involved in that genre of volunteerism. So we kind of miss it a little bit because it seems to be an awful lot of people are passing away and not so many people coming up through the ranks. So if you have such a mindset, it might be worthwhile to look into the Lions Club and say that's something you want to be involved in. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Well, it seems like I've been going, so, but that's part of the county conference that me and the Mayor Pro Tem went to. It was informative, good turnout. You know, this county is going places. A lot of transportation, like Councilman Robles talked about. It'd be nice to, see the what's going on with that train going to Vegas and stuff. But yeah, they talked about that, and they talked about, the infrastructure. They talked about the logistics warehouses, talked about, the trains from the ports. So a lot of movement, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more traffic, but a lot of movement. And, but yeah, San Bernardino County is definitely moving up, and it was heartfelt when I did read that letter about somebody talking about this is our home, and, don't knock it. We're trying to, and we are making a place for future residents and so people can raise their kids. And then I went to the Harvest, the county fair from the Historical Society. That thing's getting bigger and bigger. It was really nice. I bought a Jaws tie there. So, that was my favorite movie back then, and I don't think I went to the beach all that summer. You can swim in swimming pools, you thought a shark was attacking you, but it was a great time at the Harvest thing, and, you know, they had a great band, and I made a mistake by saying, you know, make sure you guys spend money, but I didn't know my wife was listening, and she spent some money there, so, and don't bring your grandkids there either, but there is a lot of great things there, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. I think they're going to wear out that little area. Might have to do a different location, you know, probably possibly Walgreens parking lot or something. But it's getting bigger and bigger. And then we had it's National Hispanic Month from September 15th to October 15th, and we recognized, we did a proclamation, and Pastor Edgy accepted it, and it's a great church, and he's doing a lot for his people, and we recognized, you know, him for being a leader in his community. But, you know, great way to honor that heritage, and he had a great testimony. And thank you, city staff, for the coffee and the cookies for that. And then I got to go to Azure Hills. They gave this, they put my name on it, but it's mainly the city's name because I didn't have anything to do with it. But it says, for your faithful service to our city to support faith community as we did extensive renovation of our 10-acre campus. We look forward to ongoing partnership. And it's an iceberg award. It's nice. But anyway, it was on Saturday, and they did a total kitchen remodel plus a dining hall remodel. And unfortunately, they started during the COVID, and it took longer, and the expenses went up 125%, like anything. But it's a really nice, and what's really great with Azure Hills and all our religious community, you know, the partnership they have with the city and working together. And, you know, our tree lighting ceremony is going to be a big plus there. And, you know, they're looking forward to hosting it again, and it's just a great way to bring on the Christmas spirit and the holiday season for a lot of people. And it's a good event, too, that, you know, brings the community and outlining communities together. So thank you, Azure Hills. The Omnitrans meeting, there was no reportable items. One thing that is kind of, I heard about it and we talked about it in my group, that movie is Sound of Freedom. It's, you know, it's a touching movie. It's about child extortion and kidnapping for using children as slaves and this slave trade and the sex trade, and how, you know, they're getting, you know, trying to protect these children from being extorted and stuff. And then I thought about, you know, and I know we were talking and we've been being proactive with our local legislation, you know, Senator Roth and you know, Assemblymember Cervantes and, you know, Don Rao. And the thing is, and I know the sheriff's got, and my son tells me about this because he's Riverside PD, and how great that flock camera system is, and how it helped him with the Amber Alert to keep brought a kid home safe. And that's what, you know, and I'm hoping that this council will, even if something fails on that with the local legislation, that we could look into that to protect our residents instead of this area going dark. But if you get a chance, watch Sound of Freedom. It's not going to be in the movie theaters long. It was, they actually didn't want it to come out, but it's still playing at the Moreno Valley Theater. But, you know, just it hits you hard when you see what kids are going through and, you know, how other countries are dealing with this. It's really touching, and it really, if we could just keep going and help out and be a voice for these, you know, poor innocent lives, and then unfortunately, the United States is the biggest culprit in bringing in these kids. So that's just a personal note. Another personal note, you know, prayers for the people of Israel, the families, comfort, and the hostages. You know, I just ask for peace, and, you know, just prayers for them. And like the elder said, it's like, you know, it's been in the Bible. They've been fighting for centuries, but, you know, one day hopefully there'll be peace in that region. But prayers for the family and the hostages. So that's all I got. City Manager, you have anything?
Yes. Actually, first, we are doing a lot of work at the parks, the playground surfaces, so The playground areas have been closed for the last week and probably closed for another week or two as we're redoing those surfaces. And I know it's inconvenient, but we really appreciate the community, you know, not getting on those surfaces and ruining them, and hopefully we can get this back up so they're nice, fun, usable areas for everyone. Since you mentioned Walgreens, the city's doing our annual trunk or treat at the Walgreens parking lot, 5 to 8 p.m. on the 31st. There'll be a couple of food trucks, events. It's going to be, if you went last year, it was great. This year, it'll be even greater. So we're really looking forward to that. Looking forward to having the community out there, and a really great chance to see the kids and see the kids enjoy a great evening. And if you're interested in participating and having your trunk being treated, please get a hold of Michelle, and we still have some spaces available. And that is it. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for the staff. This is the busy time of the year, all the stuff going on. Does the Sheriff Department have anything they'd like to say? No? Thought I'd put you on the spot, Sergeant, yes. Because usually Lane, he's talking, and we have to close the meeting because he talks so much. No? But thank you guys for being here tonight, and thank you for protecting our city. All right. So we have a closed session, none. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, regular council meeting held Tuesday, October 24, 2023 at 6 p.m. Any request to have an item placed on future agenda must be made in writing and submitted to the city clerk. Oh, that's going to change now, huh? Do we have to change that wording too?
City clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
The request will be proceed in accordance with city council procedure. So good night. God bless everybody.